What is Eclipse Che?
Eclipse Che is basically an IDE as a service. So we run your IDE as a container application running on cloud, and the web browser is your interface to access your developer workspace. And in that developer workspace, it's a mini container application itself. It's going to have the runtime that you're going to develop your application on, any developer tools you're using, and the source code is also provisioned on the cloud in containers.
What are some real-world applications of Eclipse Che?
Well, we have a number of vendors who are building products. Red Hat, my employer, has a product called Code Ready Workspaces, which is essentially targeting making it easier for developers to develop container applications for Kubernetes. But we have a number of other vendors that are building products on top of Che for a range of use cases. Some of the interesting ones are Bosch has included Eclipse Che as part of its automotive IoT platform. We have a company called Progress Software is using Eclipse Che to make it easier for people to develop applications for their middleware and database. And Broadcom is one of the most interesting use cases I've seen to date. Is they're providing modern developer tooling for COBOL development on mainframe.
And can you talk a little bit more about that project?
Absolutely. So before I actually answer, how we are actually leveraging and extending Eclipse Che, let me give you some context based on the conversation that I had this morning during the impromptu networking event that we had. So a gentleman was asking me, why I'm here. So I told him, the purpose and where we are from. It's like his first question was, half jokingly, mainframes. Do they still exist? And I want to assure you they still exist, and so are the applications that are actually running pretty much the key financial, insurance, retail, payment, aviation industries out there. So with that reality, there are a lot of new application developers coming to the platform to manage, maintain, modernize those applications. So what we are doing is leveraging open source tools, the tools that these application developers are familiar with, that they understand, that they can wrap their head around very easily, and welcome them to the mainframe application development platform so that they can use those familiar tools to do their day-to-day job without actually going through a significant learning curve. So that's the key thing that we are trying to solve with this. Now, coming to the question of what exactly are we doing? We are extending Eclipse Che to provide, access to the mainframe, so the users can actually get to the mainframe, to get to their artifacts, and also edit their COBOL programs using intelligent editor capabilities from the same environment. So essentially, we want to make mainframe appear as any other platform with the help of Eclipse Che.
You talked a little bit about this, but why would you say Eclipse Che is a particularly good fit for the mainframe developer?
Great question. So all of the things that Dave was talking about in terms of the problems that Eclipse Che is trying to solve, ease of access, faster onboarding of application developers, are something that the new age application developers or new generation application developers really like and can relate to. In addition to that, in the mainframe world, which is more conservative, risk-averse, having a centralized environment for the IT shops where they can really manage, a single instance of the development environment and ensure consistency, auditability across the board, I think is really, really key. And Eclipse Che is an environment that actually provides us with that. So what we are trying to do is we see the relevance not just to the application developers, but to the entire mainframe organization to adopt and continue and embark on the modernization journey for the mainframe application development. And since we believe, in that vision and goal, what we are doing is actually we are open sourcing. We are creating a sub-project for all the work that we are actually doing, a sub-project under Eclipse Che, and donating it to open source to build a modernization community around mainframe application development.
And going forward, what excites you most about Che?
Well, right now we're working towards the next release of Che 7, which brings some of the things that Venkat mentioned, very fast onboarding of new developers for a project. And one of the ways we do that is we've got something called a dev file. It's kind of a script that describes what goes into a developer workspace, which containers, what tools, and so on. And One of the things that's really exciting to me is if you add a dev file for your open source project to your repository, we can then pick up that repository direct from GitHub and start a developer workspace direct from your GitHub page in a hosted Eclipse Che instance. So it's the ability, one of the things that's really exciting for me is the ability to get new open source contributors for any open source project out there through adopting Eclipse Che. And another thing that I think is really exciting is one of the things that we've done in Eclipse Che 7 is to use a lot of the same standards that are used by VS Code. So we use the same plugin APIs, we use the language server protocol and debug adapter protocol to integrate with third-party tools. And so we can now in Che 7 run VS Code plugins as extensions in a developer workspace in containers unchanged. And I think that's really, really exciting in terms of giving access to this whole ecosystem of developer tools that's out there in a cloud IDE environment.
Well, thank you both very much for talking with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.